This video is brought to you by Manscaped. Stick around to hear more about the discount that they're providing to our entire community. Alright, so a few days ago I did a video about the Wall Street bloodbath of GameStop. Friday, the ticker made financial history, which is pretty incredible, and I knew it was a flashpoint for policy changes and future aspirations in the market, but it didn't end. Monday and Tuesday, the losses and gains just kept growing. The history keeps getting made, but more than that, battle lines have been drawn. The United States is a compression chamber of anger right now. Anger at the system, the lockdowns, the policies, the elections. More than that, the reality of classes and upward mobility, the financial infrastructure that crushes most of us every single day in one way or another. And in the age of COVID, with heightened political as well as civil unrest, people want a cause. I won't devolve into the psychological reality of chasing movements even when you don't believe in them, but the idea of class warfare being personified in one fell swoop while hedge funds and major financial institutions bleed out on the concrete, it's finding traction. So let me explain, because that's a very intense way to introduce a simple stock ticker movement pattern, and what started as a Reddit forum on the front lines of a somewhat savvy financial play is rapidly becoming a moment in history where retail investors inflict maximum damage on Wall Street, deliberately, even recklessly I would say, simply for the sake of the message. For anyone here that doesn't follow any of these things, honestly, I'm not an expert, but I know enough, hopefully, to chronicle these events in a way that showcases what exactly has been unfolding with both accuracy and, especially, entertainment value. First, we need terms. A retail investor is a casual participant in the market. It's often used in financial circles, especially as a pejorative, and it typically refers to individuals who operate on mobile apps or widely accessible brokers like E-Trade. Effectively, it's someone who puts their own money into the market and trades on their own behalf. They don't use a major fund, they aren't using other people's money, they aren't an expert, they're just taking some of their own paycheck or their savings, whatever it is, and making their own decisions. Major financial institutions don't like this because they profit from fees and especially percentage cuts. When retail investors use an app like Robinhood, more on that later though, they avoid those fees for the most part and cut a large chunk of potential revenue out of the equation for major funds. This leads to a stratification in sentiment. Wall Street, a literal term that refers to the 8-block strip in downtown Manhattan that houses the New York Stock Exchange, but now more widely refers to the large financial institutions that trade on and manipulate those markets. Wall Street does not view retail investors with respect or even basic human decency, honestly. To the large institutions, individual retail investors are a threat, a nuisance, a group of idiots who should not be allowed to operate, and the sentiment has been focused on ridicule and dismissal of them. That sentiment is weakness. In actuality, retail investors on a platform like Robinhood are, on average, outperforming most equity mutual funds. The widespread market as a whole could be the subject of drastic overvaluation right now, true, but this doesn't change the reality that Wall Street hates retail investors and views them to be risk-addicted, unintelligent factors in the market, and that helps us set the stage for things to come. Now, before going further, I have one simple question. Have you ever wanted to shave the hair off of a kiwi without nicking the skin? Yes, you have. You wonder that daily. Good, because it's not a kiwi. It's your balls. Have you ever noticed that when you go to a theme park, this is kind of unconnected, but it'll make sense, trust me. When you go to a theme park, the roller coasters have smooth seats. There's a reason. They don't have furry roller coaster seats because people want to ride on smooth surfaces. And Valentine's Day is in a couple weeks. Manscaped provides an all-purpose grooming kit called the Perfect Package 3.0, trademarked, which contains a new refined cologne, the 3rd generation waterproof Lawnmower 3 body hair trimmer, as well as the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver ball toner for a perfectly groomed experience. Valentine's Day often conjures up images of chocolate and roses and flower petals on a bed, and that's just the pre-roll though. There's a lot more images after that, and they should be really well-groomed images because it's a pretty good gift to give, especially on a day like that. More men trust Manscaped than any other men's grooming accessory kit on the entire market, and for a limited time, click the link down below for 20% off and free shipping on your order with code UPPER20. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping on your order using code UPPER20. Make big moves this Valentine's Day and buy Manscaped. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. Now it's time to recap the events of and those preceding Friday the 22nd of January 2021. I'll condense this down as much as possible because my previous video covers all of it with much more detail, but the ignition point was a Reddit forum called Wall Street Bets, which focused in on a company called GameStop as being far oversold. The mechanism for this is somewhat complicated for the financially uninitiated, but the effective summary is that one can borrow shares from a broker, pre-sell them, operate on margin, leverage, and flood the market with shares and a promise to buy them back later. I don't want to repeat too much from the previous video because this is just precursor information as to how we ended up here and not the actual target subject of the video. But the idea is to make money on both sides of a trade. If you think the price will rise, you can make money by going long or getting a call option. If you think the price will fall, you can make money by going short or getting a put option. GameStop is the most shorted stock in Wall Street history, and something pretty incredible happened as a result of that constant pressure from huge investment firms. After what feels like years of downward pressure and overextended short selling, GameStop had more shorted, pre-sold shares than the company actually even owns. It's hard to even express the implications of all this because in a company that only has 69.75 million shares in total, 71.2 million shares are being shorted. This brings us to a new term called naked shorting. Naked shorting is an illegal action where traders can short sell a stock before verifying, or even attempting to, honestly, that it could even be bought, or basically selling shares that might not exist. Looking at GameStop with a total of 69.75 million shares and 71.2 million shares shorted as of mid-December 2020, we can draw certain conclusions from that. Naked short selling is not uncommon. It's illegal, but it's definitely not uncommon. But for GameStop, it is particularly obvious. This creates opportunity fueled by a rise in retail investor action, information spread from massive and still growing, rapidly growing online communities, and a number of other factors, which drove the price up, causing some of those short positions to close, creating more buying pressure, which in turn creates more buying pressure, and what you get is called a short squeeze. Friday the 22nd saw such a meteoric price rise, a circuit breaker kicked in, and it actually happened, I think, 8 times on Monday. It's pretty unparalleled. What's happening is pretty insane. This is an automated lockdown, a circuit breaker, of trading on a stock because the movements are so severe and drastic and fast. And that circuit breaker temporarily put a dampener on the bleeding, but not for long. The stock is so oversold, so manipulated, so skewed in its trading patterns, with nothing to do with underlying value. None of it has anything to do with the actual fundamentals of the company, that once the train left the station, it wasn't coming back. The fact that this happened on a Friday is pretty important because it provided an entire weekend of retail investor free time for the information of what was happening to spread. The train that left the station wasn't just a train, it was a message. It was a cause people could attach to. This was a vehicle for retail investors to make Wall Street bleed after years of financial and verbal abuse. But even more critical, this was a vehicle for everyone who utilizes the markets to put the screws to those that profit millions, even billions every year through illegal methods and market manipulation. Wall Street, as we've discussed already, is a figurehead representing the class that dominates our lives. America's financial markets provide campaign donations, influence politics. Huge politicians, even presidential candidates, will get paid $250,000 for a 30-minute speech to one of these firms. It's pretty incredible. They lobby our representatives for different actual policy changes. And even more obviously, they control and manipulate market factors, which often dictate personal circumstances for retirement, pensions, 401ks, and the list goes on and on. In 2008, when the markets collapsed, Wall Street corporations deliberately packaged options together in order to pass every loss that they could along to their customers. The average people sustained the loss. The average people had their savings stolen, and that behavior hasn't ended. It hasn't even decreased. It's merely gotten worse. GameStop is a weapon that retail investors are using to send a message, and that message has casualties. Melvin Capital is a well-known Wall Street firm, rather famous actually, down 30% in 2021 as a result of the GameStop pressure, and it was bailed out for $2.1 billion over the weekend by Point72 and Citadel. That's an important player, so keep that word in mind, Citadel. This bailout occurred after the firm had been crushed on Friday when GameStop's price topped $70. Well, days later, it's pushing $250. This bailout is indicative of just how over-leveraged and exposed these firms are after participating, most likely, in flat-out illegal trading activity, but it goes even deeper. Citadel is a market maker, in all actuality a prominent world financial power by itself practically, and one of the aspects to Citadel's business involves Robinhood, a retail investor giant that recently emerged as a mobile trading platform. In order to create the zero-fee trading system, Robinhood actually routes its trades through Citadel. And Citadel, a market maker, again, just bailed out Melvin Capital after their business got crushed by a possibly illegal short play. It was calculated on Reddit through the same exact board where the GameStop play began to initially pick up steam that for every roughly $11 that GameStop's price would rise, Melvin Capital could lose $1 billion. This means that Tuesday's events have gutted this firm well and truly beyond the $2.8 billion that was injected by Point72 and Citadel. And Melvin Capital isn't the only player in the market with these positions. Remember, GameStop was the most shorted stock in Wall Street history. GameStop itself means absolutely nothing. It's a company with bad financials, bad business practice, consumers hate it, it has a bad reputation, and it really does have an uncertain future. But the tug of war that we see playing out right now between retail investors and Wall Street means everything. If you scroll the message boards, the comment sections, or any other discourse platform for this stock, and its recent movements especially, the sentiment will become very clear very quickly. While it is obvious that many people have jumped on just purely for the option of walking away rich, like that's always going to be the case, it's equally as prominent to find those that are openly proclaiming the endeavor as a time to make Wall Street bleed. The thing is, it's not over. Due to the financial methods for call and put options, there are expiration dates and critical price points. One of those key dates is Friday, the 29th of January, 2021, and the sentiment has been building that this is only the beginning. It all comes back to what very well might be some sort of once-in-a-lifetime financial anomaly that won't ever occur again, or if it does, it could be decades down the line. At least not in such an extremely exaggerated state, though. This seems like a really once-in-a-lifetime event. Mainstream financial media, advisors, commentators, and more have begun referring to this tug of war as exactly that, a war between the underworld retail investors and Wall Street, with quotes like, "In this kind of revolutionary war, the first line of musket troops gets gunned down and another line takes their place." We are witnessing actual battle tactics, financial battle tactics, such as a short ladder attack, which can be used to trip stop losses and create panic selling. There are legitimate maneuvers being undertaken right now in the markets by multi-billion-dollar companies to protect their entire business infrastructure and future, because this has become more than just some short sellers versus company believers, which happens every day. This engagement has transcended the realm of typical day-to-day stock moves and turned into a conflict between people who want to disrupt the game and the people who literally write the rules for it, as we can see with Citadel. Full disclosure, I do not own any GME stock. I've been FOMOing super hard for a few days, but not all that long ago I made some bad decisions, decided it was time to be done with high-risk investments, and I'm honestly going to have some mental fortitude and stick to that. But I wish these retail investors all the luck in the world. The future for this stock is unbelievably volatile because once the share dump begins, and it will happen, it's going to be ruthless for a lot of people who are currently flying high on their gains. But the higher it goes, the more vicious it is for Wall Street financial parasites that have time and time again vindictively stolen from their customers and their peers. We are witnessing financial history because no matter what happens from here forward, and it's sure to be explosive in one way or another, there has already been one hedge fund taken to the brink of oblivion by just this one stock play. Billionaires have begun openly talking about GameStop price battles, and there are rumors of regulations emerging where the SEC may turn their attention to Reddit. The financial world has existed for many years by a consistent set of rules, at least semi-consistent. There's kind of a hands-off approach with a lot of this. There's a lot of illegal stuff that happens day to day, but yeah, retail investors, driven by online community organizing and viral information spread, just upended the board so hard the dice are all over the floor, and everyone is scrambling to find their pieces. It's going to be one hell of a week. A lot of people are going to make money and a lot of people are going to lose it. Entire hedge funds are on the chopping block, and the rules of the game might literally get changed because of these historic events. It's been, and will continue to be, incredible to watch. But that's it. If you want support, there are a bunch of links down below, but primarily I would ask that anyone who enjoys the content and wants a fantastic YouTube alternative as a platform, check out Odyssey. My entire content library is there. You can watch all my videos, and it's tremendously valuable for you to watch my videos on that site because they actually value and pay their creators quite well. Also, Locals, which is a better form of Patreon for anyone who wants to support that way. I appreciate it. There's another YouTuber to support down there, merchandise, social media, and of course, Manscaped. Yeah, buy that, support the channel. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.